This is talking about video games, and if you just want an answer, it's dopamine and feedback. But if you want to know why, or at least my reason why, it's rewarding, then watch the rest of the video. However, I will not be delving into the link between video game violence and real world violence. I will be talking about visual, contextual and mechanical violence. Let's go over the context of the violence we are speaking about. Video game violence is a lot more different and a lot more impactful than any other medium for one reason: the interactability. This interactability allows a user to participate in said acts of violence, allowing for more direct and identifiable connection. This isn't to say video games are the best platform, but it is the best platform for immersion and interactability, way more than any other medium. However, in this video, I'm going to be talking about specifically why the act of killing people is fun in games, and what factors produce this feeling of reinforcement and feedback. Visual violence has been refined since Doom and Mortal Kombat, two of the main games that introduced gore to the general audience, giving us a striking and impactful feeling of violence. A good example of video game violence that is visually brutal while providing ample amount of feedback is Blood Trail VR. Blood Trail VR is gameplay-wise quite simple, as well as story-wise. You're just a dude going into places shooting people, has basic controls, basic enemies, basic playstyle. The only two modes are Arena and Raid, and also Sandbox, but it's not really a mode. However, the thing that makes this stand out is the same thing that made Mortal Kombat stand out. This is one of the most graphic and brutal games I have ever seen. It is also one of the most impressive technical feats in gore I have ever seen. The only one that has come close to this is Half Sword, and even then some of the mechanics in Blood Trail outshine Half Sword, I would say. In Blood Trail, you have pistol caliber wounds, rifle caliber wounds, shotgun wounds, slash wounds, blunt force damage, explosive wounds, clothing damage, enemies bleeding out, enemies choking out on their own blood, enemies missing limbs while still being alive, enemies crying over dead teammates, enemies begging for their life, enemies seizing up, enemies having their neck snapped. You get the idea. The game is pretty goddamn brutal, with it being an extremely voyeuristic and graphic game, which is why it stands out. It presents a grounded view of modern messy violence. As it is a VR game, it provides the best immersion can be in games, allowing for even more feedback, as a literal physical action is needed to produce these violent results. The reason why we find this fun is simple: curiosity and experimentation. People are naturally curious on the human body, and this game provides an extremely detailed and visually realistic depiction of said gore, allowing you to experiment and simulate how a person reacts to your actions against him. This type of violence is purely voyeuristic. We see this in other games such as People's Playground or Manhunt. This is the main reason why visual violence is fun, because it taps into our psyche of curiosity. But with that being said, let's move on to mechanical violence. Another aspect of killing people in games is the mechanical aspect. My definition of mechanical violence in games would be that of, what does violence add, or how could the player interact with the violence in an engaging and advantageous way? This doesn't mean that the game has to be gory, but it does have to be mechanically involved. For this, I'll give multiple examples of games that have mechanical violence while still not being necessarily gory. Fly Night is a good example of mechanical violence, where you can individually hack at specific limbs, resulting in enemies being immobile to use that limb if decapitated, with different enemies being affected by different weapons and being more prone to different attacks, i.e. beetles take more blunt damage and ants take more slash damage. While the game isn't necessarily gory or bloody, it makes for effective and hard-hitting combat scenarios, where you have to think about what weapons you are using and what enemies you are fighting, as well as what limb you are targeting, making for an effective and satisfying combat loop. Another example is Escape from Tarkov. Escape from Tarkov presents a sort of multi-layer bulletproof vest system. We'll go over the type of armours we have first. The first type of body armour is soft armour. Soft armour stops rounds at the cost of some health, as it doesn't stop the kinetic force like in real life. Then you have plates, which can either slot into soft armor vests or are utilised on their own. Plates will stop high caliber rounds, and if placed with soft body armor, will prevent more damage. Then we have the armor level ratings from 1 to 6, 1 being the least to stop the rounds, 6 being the best to stop the rounds. This isn't even considering ricochet, materials, areas, etc. Armor in Tarkov is pretty in depth compared to most games, making the killing more engaging. Killing someone in Tarkov is pretty rewarding, due to the fact that you either have to outplay your opponent or outgun them. For example, if you're using a low penetrating round, aiming for the legs or head would make their armor useless, and you'd be able to secure the kill. However, it would be risky, as leg shots take a long time to kill someone, especially from afar, and people might be wearing helmets, making low penetrating rounds useless against headshots. However, no matter how you kill someone in this game, it is satisfying, for the main reason that you've bested another player, and you get rewarded. You are able to loot their corpse, you can loot whatever gun, armor, helmet they have. They might have stuff in a safe pouch, but you get to keep their gun, armor, helmets, bullets, ammo, anything that's in their backpack, anything that's in their pockets, you get to keep if you can carry it, and that feels so rewarding. But this is more sort of contextual, and speaking of that, let's talk about contextual violence. Contextual violence is, as the name showcases, the context of why you are doing the violence. Now, this may seem counterintuitive or useless in the aspect of killing people being fun, but it truly does immerse you and make the experience a whole lot better in some instances. Let's give a general example. World War II. The obvious context is that it is World War II. While playing a World War II game, with the background knowledge of World War II, it gives you an obvious notion of who you are, what time period it is, with the uniforms and weaponry fitting of the time, the maps being real world locations. All of these combined give a good contextual showcase of what type of war you are fighting. And due to this immersion and context, you truly feel engrossed in its world, making the act of killing someone more impactful. Contextual violence has a meta side to it as well, where this is most showcased is in competitive games. The meta aspect of contextual violence is where you knowingly beat another player in a game. Similar to the Tarkov example where killing another player was the reward, an example I would like to talk about would be Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is the competitive shooter. It's been around since the 90s and has cemented itself as the go-to comp shooter. Counter-Strike's contextual violence stems from a competitive angle. Killing someone feels rewarding, as you have beaten another real player who should be at your skill level, meaning that either due to dueling, positioning, or sometimes luck, he has lost that competitive edge, making for competitive killing to be rewarding, the same way winning a sport is rewarding, as you have bested another opponent in a challenge, giving a sort of validation of your skill. There is also a build-up and potential planning on that killing you do. Executing sights might be a full mindless rush, but you may execute smoke lineups and flashes to perfectly overtake a sight, as well as spray control and map knowledge. All of these factors make you better at the game, which also in turn makes it more fun when it works out. Mechanical and contextual violence in this instance are very similar in what I'm trying to talk about, but I guess the main difference would be mechanical is actually playing with the mechanics, i.e. headshots, with it adding on to the experience of killing. And contextual is how the background knowledge, i.e. immersion and competitive play, makes the killing satisfying. All of this different type of violence isn't mutually exclusive. Some games may implement multiple types of violence, while others may only have one. So, what is the conclusion? Well, the conclusion is visual, contextual, and mechanical all have a part in making killing fun. Now, that doesn't mean that a game has to include all three of these aspects. It could just either include just one. But as long as it includes one, it will be fun to kill someone in a game. Thank you for watching the video. Sorry if this seems a little like rambly or stupid. This is like telling my third time making a video like this, but yeah, I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in a while. I was dealing with like personal stuff, but I should be back, and I might actually go more in depth in contextual violence, talk about Ready or Not or some other stuff like that, you know. But yeah, I'll see you when I see you. Bye bye.